Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast. Today on the show, I speak with André. He's originally from Chicago, but now calls Paris home. He gives us great insights into what it means to be an artist, ignore your ego, and just enjoy life in Paris. So welcome to the show, André. How are you today?
Oh, fair to middling.
I love it. Well, you are a fascinating character. I was introduced to you by Kimberly Gordon, and you are originally from Chicago. Tell us what brought you to Paris.
Well, my grandmother. That's the only explanation I could give is I was a kid growing up in Chicago, and I was introduced to Alexandre Dumas through my grandmother, who was really into him. And whenever he had something on television or anything relating to him, the Three Musketeers, the Count of Monte Cristo, any of the programs, my grandmother would make sure I would sit with her and watch.
I love that. That's so sweet.
Yeah, and at first I complained, but after a while it was kind of cool to be the Count of Monte Cristo, you know?
So that kind of inspired you from a young age to be open-minded and open to other cultures.
Yeah, I mean, my grandmother was, really good. I'm competing with a woman downstairs from New York. The New Yorkers like to out-talk the Chicagoans, but you know who the boss is.
Exactly. So what has Paris given you that Chicago couldn't? We were talking a little bit earlier about you can be yourself finally.
Well, in Paris, I could be André. In Chicago, I had it difficult growing up. People don't understand my perspective about life growing up. You're growing up and you mixed race, or you light up than someone else in the neighborhood. They don't treat you the same way.
Definitely.
So I had some challenges, but there was nothing I couldn't overcome. I used to paint pictures of my grandmother, and I would present them to black art galleries to try and get my art in their galleries. And they would say, well, we would take your art, but you got too many pictures of white women.
Wow. Wow.
And I said, but that's my grandmother. I said, she's not white. She's my grandmother. So they didn't understand. Yeah, they didn't see that part of it. People could be really harsh in the world if you don't, know what's going on. So.
Yeah, definitely. And then talk a little bit about that, about your art. When did you start creating? You've lived many lives, like computer programming and coding.
Yeah, I don't really I'm not really that excited about claiming myself to be an artist because, my early work, my whole thing was really science and math. And I just somehow, it just kind of parlayed into some creative experiments, really. Creative experiments and the creative spirit to create. This New York chick will not stop talking loud. I can't even get her to stop. Anyway, I'm down at the Hotel Louisiana in Saint-Germain-des-Prés.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So I'm sitting here. That's what we're doing the interview at. And she finally went outside to have a cigarette.
Oh, good.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah.
May she enjoy the cancer she's about to get. Which
I was like, what is that? The TV? No, that's some little background lady. So talk a little bit about that. So you had math, science, and then you just kind of stumbled into painting.
Yeah, I even to this day I don't see myself as an artist because I think artists and musicians are really boring people.
Really?
Oh, I think they're the most boring son of a bitches on earth. They're self-centered and live in one deranged freaking fantasy, and I don't. I'm rounded,
I
You know,
like
I like
that.
many things. I'm not stuck into one thing. You know, I like
That's what
the
it's all
the
about.
total experience of life. You know, I may wake up one day and I want to cook, I want to be a chef, or I want to know about wine, I want to know about cheese, I want to know about travel, I want to know how things are made. I'm inquisitive about life, and I just don't take one thing. I don't think one particular thing could really define me.
I love that. That's so important. I think curiosity is a huge part of being a creative person and living a creative life. And it sounds like you're very curious.
Yeah, you have to stay curious, you know, to be me. I don't know what it's like, what an artist may say about that, but to be me, you have to stay curious, and you have to be open to whatever situation life puts you in.
Definitely. No, that's
You
so
know,
true.
and I have a lot of examples of those in the conversation if we get a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, tell us some. Give us some examples of how your life
Well,
morphed over the years.
I mean, you know, when I sit back and I look at my life, I have a son and daughter, which they both are in their 30s, and they both think they're my parents. So they all want to. They want to. My daughter would love to spank me, and so is my son. But in my life, I realized that creativity in its best form is created when one is out of their comfort zone. So let me explain the comfort zone. A comfort zone could be a person, it could be a place or a thing. Usually a thing is like you have your life together. You have your bills are paid, you got a nice comfortable place to stay. You could move around, you could travel, you got money in your pocket, you could loan people money, you could do all kinds of things. You're in the absolute what we consider comfort zone. In the comfort zone, you the desire to create something magnificent may or may not be absolutely there. Sometimes it take a little uh, humility in life to get one on a creative path. So I'll give you an example. Like for the past 2 years, like no one would believe that I mean, technically homeless in Paris for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 years. But when you're an artist, not well, you when you are a scientist like me, you don't see it that way. So the equation would be: I had my apartment. My landlord got the apartment back. They to do something with the Olympics or whatever. Um, and then I had my business in San Juan for 3 years there. So at first it was difficult because I was used to going home, sitting home, drinking me 2 beers, pulling out my computer, doing some work, designing, playing a little music, and having little friends come by, maybe go out to the cafe, hang out. And just that was my life. It was kind of like I was in like a vortex. I remember feeling like I was in some type of vortex. And it reminded me of a scene in a very famous movie in music about the life of Dexter Gordon, who I believe stayed here at the La Louisiane Hotel. And he lived in Paris and he was a musician. And in this particular movie, he goes out every night and play at the clubs, get drunk, go back to his room, go to bed, wake up in time the next day to take a shower, get dressed, and go back to the club, get drunk, wake up. And it was like he did this every day for years. And he didn't see anything else. So I kind of felt myself in a vortex. And
Definitely.
then the universe decided to challenge me, and the universe took everything away. First, the place. So when the universe took the place away, um, I had a place to go from 7 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock at night. Marche à Pouce at Saint Antoine to my shop. So when I would go to my shop, I could take a nap and I could work. And of course, I could make money. So I never felt like I was out because, some months I would make three, four, $5,000, or sometime in a day and sometime in a week. So I was making money all the time. So it didn't. I could eat and drink every night. I could get on a train and take a trip. I just didn't have a place.
Yeah, and that was for 2 years. You were
Yeah,
completely out of
for
your
two.
comfort zone.
Yeah, for 2 years this went on, and like I said, it didn't even dawn on me because when you look at the mathematics of some of the artists of the world, the artists, let's say you look at a touring artist like Mick Jagger, or some of the jazz musicians, they're literally on the road. The jazz musicians are on the road almost 90% of the year.
Yeah, that's true. They are homeless.
They're fucking homeless. You understand? They're literally homeless. I remember being in LA going out on the road with bands, and when I got back to LA, I was couch surfing because I didn't have a place. And I was only waiting to go back out on the road so I could stay in a hotel. And then I got smart, and I had a 1969 Volkswagen van I lived in.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It's just what you have to do in life. But and the thing with creativity is that the universe challenged you in such a way to get you to where you want to be. So I think this is a good example for other creatives to hear. When I didn't have anywhere to go at night, I found myself in all the blues and jazz clubs. There, I went there for refuge, to stay warm, to rest my feet, my ass, use the bathroom, all the shit you need to do. It became like my living room. So in doing so, I started actually performing on a regular basis. I decided, the French were trying to push me to sing. I would show up with my drum, sometimes my trumpet. I played instruments, but I never considered myself to be a singer. But I realized that if I sing, I didn't have to carry heavy instruments. Yeah, and I was like, okay, well, that saves a lot. And you're in the street, you can't carry your swimming bag and your drum and your horn and all that. You're gonna look way too homeless.
Yeah. Just use your voice.
Yeah. You got. So I said, well, I better use what God has given me, my God-given talent that I wasn't quite aware of. So I'm hanging out the Caveau de l'Orchard, the Salon all the top venues in Paris. And they always having jams at night. So I just start jumping up there trying. And if you don't try, you can't succeed, and neither could you fail.
I love that.
So, so in trying, people that try are trying to get some type of result. You know what I mean? That's their
Yeah.
goal.
But
And the people that don't try are not looking for results.
this is so true. But how do you
They're not
push
looking for
past?
results. They're consistent with their shit. They're not looking for anything to change or anything. They good with the way it is.
But what about the fear? I mean, so many people are scared. How do you push past that?
Well, the thing is, fear well, people always kind of throw fear and trouble together, but let's deal with fear. With fear stops you. Fear is the biggest thing. The brain, it's the brain. It's the brain. Let's get out of fear. Let's deal with the brain because a lot of the people throw fear up, but let's deal with the brain. The brain is an instrument that could make up stories. It could change the way you feel, the way you deal with things. I could give you an example. Here's a good example. Okay, so you got a girlfriend and she goes out with her friends. Y'all live together. And she goes out to her friends, and the club closes at 2. So if she a good looking woman, you want her to be home by 2:30 so you could squeeze and make love to her all night long, right? I mean, naturally, you want. At least I do. So at 2:30, I'm full throttle, baby. I'm Jones, and I can't wait till she walked through the goddamn door. But okay, so now 3:30 comes around, and I said, well, maybe they stopped to get something to eat. Okay, so to watch the brain. You got to pay attention to this. So the brain says, oh, maybe they got something to eat. All right. So you try to lay back and you listening out at the same time to see if you hear a car door close or a key turn, but it don't fucking happen. So you lay back down and try to go to sleep. Now you wake up, it's 5.
Uh-oh.
And you going, oh shit. You're thinking to yourself, did something happen to my baby? You know what I mean? So now the brain is creating all these fucking scenarios. Oh, she was in a car accident. You know what I mean? Somebody was shot up the club. I mean, the brain create all of this bullshit, and I have to say it that way, and put in your mind. So now you projecting these real short films of what could possibly be the scenario, why I haven't heard from her, why she haven't come home. Maybe she met a dude. I don't know what's going on. Maybe they ended up at some party. Who knows? But anyway, I'm waiting to see her. Okay, so 6 comes and 7 comes and 8 o'clock. She's still not there. You love it. You didn't. You basically you cannot sleep all night. You've been wanting this woman, and you freaking out. And then she walks through the door. If she's a French girl, you're glad to see her. You glad, yeah, you glad she came back. If she's an American woman, you're gonna have to have an argument. You're gonna have an argument in America, but if a French girl comes back, oh baby, you glad that she came back. You thinking God in the heavens, like, oh God, whew, I thought she was gone. I don't want that girl to get away. So the brain itself creates the fear.
It's not
The brain,
reality.
the brain shows you all the reasons not to be more if you allow it to. One of the big things that my grandmother shared with me as a kid, one of her sayings that I swear, I mean, if there's going to be a tombstone with my name on it, I want this on it.
But what is it?
She says, if someone asks you to dance, I surely hope you choose to do so.
That's beautiful.
And
It's
it's so real on every level of the human thought, and especially the thought of creating, because in creating, opportunities will come. And signs, a lot of creativity is deemed deep into some spiritual state. So a lot of times messages and people come to guide you one way or another to your path. And you have to be open and receptive, even if it's good or bad. You have to have an opportunity to decide. But if you ask to dance, you have to dance. It's just the way it goes.
I
You
love
know.
that. That's really
Yeah.
beautiful.
And that's how I see life. If people ask me, to participate, I participate.
Yeah.
I'm open, even if it's not going to work out. If you go into it that at that level, if it's not going to work out, you would know right away
Yeah.
because you were presented and you participated. You showed your interest, and if it's going another way, then you know immediately.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
intuition. It's a showing
Yeah,
up.
I mean, yeah, but then again, like I said, in all cases of all the things we're taught in education and life and memorization and knowing this and philosophy and reading this book and reading that book, nobody talk about the damn brain and how
Yeah.
ferocious the brain is. The brain is a subject of the discussion. That's why, with me, I'm real mindful of the shit I let in my brain.
Yeah.
I love literature. I love philosophy. I love a whole lot of things, but a lot of things I don't read because I'm not necessarily open to someone else's objectives all the time about life. And I don't want to program myself to be that way.
You have to be careful.
Yeah, you have to be mindful what you allow to come. The brain is not that big. Your head, unless you got a great big old head. But my head ain't that big. Even with a chapeau, it ain't that big. So I try to allow things that feel good to me, things that feel good to me inside my head. If it
Yeah.
doesn't feel good to me, I don't really want to hear about it. I don't even want to think about it. I don't want to give it no life whatsoever in the space that I'm in. In my space, whether it be delusional or not, it feels good to me that I don't allow the confusion of others and man and their propaganda and their politics and their religion and all the shit that men do on earth and been doing for thousands of years. Ain't nothing going on new.
I
So
completely.
all you do is turn around and look at the past and just go, I'm not signing up for this shit.
I won't be a part of it.
You understand? You look back at the past and you go, I'm not gonna sign up for this shit at all.
You're right, though. It's the
You
same
just
thing.
can't. I saw some stuff on social media about what's going on in America, that the Black Panther Party coming and blah, 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 and doing this. And I said to myself, shit, I wish I would sign up for some bullshit. You know what I mean? You got to be out of your goddamn mind. The thing is to be conscious enough as a human to know what's for you and what's not for you. And we got 24 hours in a day. How do you prefer to spend your 24 hours? Sad, angry, disgusted,
Yeah.
depressed. I mean, we ain't no perfect people. Shit, I'm depressed 90% of the time. Shit, I just make it look good.
Now that should be on your tombstone.
Listen, I'm depressed 90% of the goddamn time, but I just know how to make it look good. And my friends get mad at me because they said, how can he be on such a good spirit? I went, well, you can't attract anything with a bad spirit.
I like that. That's so true. It's all about filling your cup with good things.
I mean, it's like, you have to push, and I look in the mirror and I see that person in that mirror, that on the other side of the reflection or the dimension. I just so happen to like that son of a bitch.
That's good news. That's
You
really
understand? I like that. I like the person that I see. So whenever I feel, things ain't going the way I want them or I can't figure things out, sometimes I walk by the mirror and kind of glance at myself. And usually if I do, I usually catch a good smile back.
I like that. You
I
talk a
catch a
lot
good
about
Yeah,
you talk
I catch a good smile back, and it's the one thing that keeps me going. It keeps me, wanting to go the extra mile, wanting to survive the struggle, the difficulties of processing things sometime, which are the lessons itself. Like I said, if the universe takes something from you, they give you something else. So you got to always look for the reason you in particular states in
you have
your
to
life. And
prep.
the greatest thing is to have the courage, the absolute courage to be where you are.
I love that.
Yeah,
You
to
talk
be.
a lot about like embodying the frequency of life. What does that
Yeah,
mean to you? Is that what you mean?
absolutely. Because, you know, it's just how I was. I can't really compare myself. I don't compare myself really with others. I see what other people do, and that's fine if it works for them. And I do what I do. And everything you're going to get when you're supposed to have it or not. Everybody, we're not created equal. The whole ideal of man being created equal of some sort is some type of foolery. It's some absolute foolery because we're not created equal. Everybody has a different perspective and see life a different ways. So there's no equilibrium in that part of it. But we all have to live on Earth. And we're gonna all have challenges. Everybody ain't gonna like you, and you ain't supposed to like everybody. It's just the way
Completely.
it goes.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
life.
yeah. Everybody, if somebody don't like you, there's nothing wrong with people not liking you. It's okay not to be liked.
Yeah. A lot of
It's
people
okay.
struggle with
Yes,
that.
if someone don't like you for what you look like, how you behave, your gender, whatever they may choose to not like you for, they entitled to that.
I like that.
They
Let
entitled to it. You ain't supposed to. This ain't no popularity goddamn contest.
It's true. You gotta
Yeah,
like.
but people think, oh, they don't like us. Shit, them shit. Look, they
Who
ain't
cares?
supposed to fucking like you, loud motherfuckers.
That's okay.
I mean, people, it's okay not to be liked. It's okay. We need to know what's okay on Earth. We need to know what's okay.
That's really freeing too
You
to
know,
hear.
we need to know what's okay. And when you process your life in a way that works for you, and try and listen to all the lessons that life present. You know, that's the biggest thing. Life is constantly a process to the end. And I wrote recently on a social media post that some days I don't know my head from my feet, and I used to call my grandmother on days like that. But since she's not available, I can't call her anymore. But when I was able to call her, that was the lesson. So I would call my grandmother on days like that. And as soon as she answered the phone, she don't even give me an opportunity to say one word. She come right in talking about my sisters. Something they did. That goddamn sister of yours came over the other day, asked me for $5 with a wet ass. She just left her boyfriend, but she gets out the car and comes in the door and asks me for $5 to buy her some cigarettes. So this is stuff your grandmother say, and then all of a sudden you laughing at the top of your lungs, and then all of a sudden she said, "Hey, baby, how you doing?" She said, "What was you calling me for?" And at that moment you completely forgot what your problem, what you thought your problem was,
Yeah.
what you couldn't figure out. It just disappears.
I like that. Yeah, no, that's so true. And it's important we have people like that in our lives.
Yeah, you got to have those fillers in between to push you. It's important. But yeah, I like many things about life.
Yeah,
Many things.
you're living it to the full, isn't
Yeah,
and
I like many things about life.
but talk a little bit about your painting. You described dancing across the canvas. Is painting physical for you?
Um, well, yeah, all of it is physical because it depends on what in painting. It depends on this. There's many things that makes it physical. Uh, Planning it, you have to really give it some thought. Sometimes, a lot of things are with my art is improvisation, but some projects I have to plan to scale because they for clients or based on the media or medium that I'm using and the size. So a lot of that stuff has to have some calculations, a lot of math. So it's a lot of thinking and a lot of processing, a lot of formulas, a lot of experiments uh, with different mediums. So it's a lot of thought, a lot of lots of science, and that part wears down. And then you have to be a builder in a way. A lot of my big pieces, I built all the frames. Uh, I do all the structural stuff so that they could, stand. I worked in the past with a couple of big framing outfits in Chicago that were responsible for framing and hanging in large malls and large institutions and hospitals around Chicago. So I learned the safety procedures of building and structuring art and how it should be hung and the security practice and best practices for doing that. So I had to learn how to do all that stuff in doing my art. Um, so that's a physical job. A lot of bending, a lot of sawing, a lot of cutting, a lot of measuring. And then then you go into your mediums, and then there you go. You have to come up with a lot of times your color palettes. A lot of palettes you kind of make on a fly. You know, sometimes you write a formula down for a palette so you can remember it, and sometimes you're moving so quick you just do it, and then you got to have muscle memory to the hope you can figure out the color and process again. So it becomes a lot of, again, it goes back to a lot of thinking and processing with art. And the same with like music. Like when I go on the stage and perform music, especially all of it, the percussions, horn, whatever. It's all like a form of being an athlete. You know, you have to be able to breathe good to blow a horn. You have to be in good form to play drums or percussion. You got to have some good, strength in your legs to be able to lift the drum, and you got to have the endurance to play for 5 hours at a time. So it's a lot of sport.
Yeah, art is physical.
It's a lot of sport that's involved in creativity, at least with me. And then when I'm on the stage doing music, I dance the notes out. I mean, I walk the notes, I jump the notes, I shout the notes, I bend the notes, I do the James Brown.
You're in
Yeah,
good shape.
I mean, I get down. Shit, it's like, I guess when I look at some of the video clips that people shoot when I perform, they remind me of going to church with my grandmother, the Greater Harvest Baptist Church, Chicago, on like 53rd and State, 51st and State. It's been a long time, but anyway, I used to go there, and the preacher, when he got up in the pulpit and he started preaching a good sermon, and he's dancing, and the crowd is jumping, and the choir is singing. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, all that movement.
It's an amazing frequency to feel.
I love that.
Yeah, it was an amazing. I didn't understand anything about what was going on religiously. That was the religion part was way beyond my understanding at that time. All I could understand was what the hell that music was doing.
Yeah, I
I
feel
said,
something.
yeah, I mean they was shouting and jumping, and women were throwing them, falling on the ground. I said, "Damn, what's going on in here?" I mean, this is some serious partying shit going down
In the church.
in the church. In
So
the church. It was amazing. Oh, it was amazing. Sometimes it would be so intense that it would scare you.
I love that. So how
But
would you
it's strange that I would find an article about something that took place in France. I've been trying to find it in my Instagram feed. It was about some kind of dance ritual that the French was doing. I think near Normandy. I'm not certain. That was it was a spiritual dance, and it was during like a hot season or something. But it's the same dance. It kind of, when we talk about sound and music, a lot of people think and base a lot of things on various things. Like they say everything had come from Africa, and I think things come from all over the world. I mean, in every culture really could feel the blues.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
it's no the frequency doesn't know a color.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's true. Art
Yeah,
too.
the frequency does the frequency doesn't care if you're a male or female, short, tall, skinny, fat, straight, gay. It don't give a damn.
It's true. Oh my goodness, you're right.
Yeah, frequency doesn't. If everything is based on the frequency. It doesn't care about those things. Those are not the issues of a frequency. So frequency could be felt anywhere in the world in any form whatsoever. And I think the testament to that is that every group of humans on Earth have their own drums.
I love
The
that.
Chinese got their drum, the Japanese got their drum, the Africans got their drum. Every society in the world had a drum.
I
That was
think
their frequency, their vibrations.
I think thinking about frequency, that's so true around the world, and I think that it's such a beautiful note to end on. And where can people discover your music and your art and your writing? I mean, you have so much going on.
They need to come see me.
Where are you performing?
Well, I mean, I perform in different places. Lately, I just been kind of impromptu. Um, I hit sometime the Caveau de la Hachette. There's a new club called the Jazz Paris in the 13th arrondissement, and I'm looking to do something with them soon. And there's also the Chez George here in Saint Germain de Prix. Uh, I'm in cahoots with some cats to do some blues there because it's close to the hotel and it'd be real convenient to take the guests over there for an evening and have a nice little get together with some good music and get down and give them the proper experience of coming to Paris, you know. So
Yeah. And where
yeah,
can they
but
find your art?
yeah, they could find me. I have of course a website is barondeandre.com. You could also reach me on Instagram at Baron DeAndre. I also I don't know if you guys dabble in. I'm on X. I'm on X as well as Baron DeAndre. I'm on OpenSea platform. I do some stuff with coins and NFTs and crypto. So you can find me at Baron DeAndre there, and just send me a message and let me know when you're coming to Paris. If you're in Paris, let me know when you want to come by and join me for an apparel or take a look at a collection or somewhat, and let's get together. I like to.
Fantastic.
I would like to meet you.
Well, thank you so much. And I can't wait to see what you'll do next.
Oh, you better come see me, baby.
Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.